I'm so excited to speak to our guest today. She is a physician associate that is in New York City that specializes in cosmetic dermatology. Please help me to introduce Sari Katz.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure being on this show with John. I'm so excited to go into a little bit about how I got into this industry and what's so exciting about it. So John, I'll let you take the lead.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely. I love this. I love connecting and networking. I think it's so important for this industry.
Okay, yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I've connected with so many people and that's how I've met so many people. I'm sure that's how you've gotten a lot of opportunities in your career also.
Definitely. 100%. There's always something to learn from somebody else. So you just have to be open-minded and let the opportunities come.
Great, great. Now you're actually stationed in New York right now, correct?
Correct. Yep. So my current position, I have a concierge service called Velour Medical. So I'm co-founder with my partner, Dr. Michael Kennis, of an amazing service. So we have both an in-office option, but the fun part is that we have a home visit option for aesthetics like Botox, fillers, chemical peels, microneedling, 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐿. We do just about everything we can carry with us, just not lasers because those are kind of heavy.
That's really cool. So you actually go in the home of clients and do whatever services that they would like.
Yeah, so basically what happened was during the pandemic, a lot of offices closed and aesthetics became non-essential. So we had to put aesthetics on the back burner, and I was practicing mostly medical dermatology. And, you know, I grew up in derm. Derm is definitely one of my passions, but within dermatology, the aesthetics is my true passion. And I had to put that on hold, and it kind of made me realize even more so what my love and my desire in my career was. And I had a lot of patients who didn't feel comfortable coming into the office once non-essential medicine like aesthetics was allowed to open back up. A lot of patients were nervous to come into the office for something elective because of the situation of being scared that they would come in contact with COVID or they would be exposed. So a lot of patients were asking me, hey, Sari, I don't feel comfortable coming into the office. Would you ever consider coming to my home? And I had to stop and think, would I do that? Could I do that? Could I find a way to be covered insurance-wise to do that? So I did the research, found all the right, coverage and all the right means to actually provide that for patients. So yeah, and now we're, the lead concierge company in Manhattan for not only cosmetics, but also for like COVID testing and other like wellness shots and IVs. So it's pretty cool what we're allowed to offer patients at a convenience, right?
That is super cool. And I would like to even touch on that a little bit more. Like you pivot, like a lot of bigger companies like Apple, Google, when things happen such as COVID-19, they pivot their business. But you literally pivot your business to what the customer need and went in on that niche and made it big. That's amazing. What made you, like, I know you said you spoke to customers. Are you really big with customer feedback in your business?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the most important thing is patient satisfaction, right? Because if you want loyal, this is an industry where what drives the productivity is the return of the client, right? So Botox, it doesn't last forever. Fillers don't last forever. Patients come back, every say 4 to 6 months. And really we have to make sure that when they're in need for it, they want to come to us and not somebody else. So providing that option of convenience was the next level VIP service for our clients. And I think our clients really took to it. They really enjoy it. I mean, there are people that are from out of state that don't have a home here for us to visit. So we just recently also got an office option so we can have both. But it's also kind of fun, you get a connection with that patient to the next level when you're meeting their dog or their children or sitting at their kitchen table. It's just the most serene kind of, it's just so cool. And really been such a joy doing this. And I don't feel like it's work anymore. I just feel like I get to do what I love every day. And I connect with my patients on such a greater level.
That's great. That's great. That's exactly what it's about, really being passionate about what you do and your industry. So that's amazing. I love it. I love it. So let's actually go back to the beginning. Tell us, how did you get started? And you started in dermatology and then kind of went into cosmetics. Tell us a little bit about that process.
So a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually grew up in dermatology. I started as a file girl. You remember when there were paper charts? So I started as a file girl at dermatology practice. And I was just, exposed to dermatology conditions, skincare, that medical setting. So at a young age, I kind of knew, in high school, I knew I wanted to go into medicine. I just didn't know what avenue of medicine yet. And then, I practiced as a medical assistant. I was in between school. I'd work as a medical assistant. And then I ended up going to PA school to get my master's, and being on the other side of it, now being a provider, it's so cool to see all aspects of the business, right? I think it's really important to have come from a background where you understand every level of the business and every level of patient care, from the second the patient walks into the room to the follow-up phone call that they received, a week or two later. So I think it's really kind of pushed me to, explore every avenue of medicine. And then, my heart was always in dermatology. So I did explore other potential during PA school. I went on so many different rotations, and I just ended up always back in dermatology, and also aesthetics, like working for plastic surgeons. And what happened that got me from medical derm into aesthetics is a few months out of PA school, while I was working as a dermatology PA, I was asked to join a last minute session for training for injectables, Botox and fillers. And it's funny because at that time in my life, I wasn't so gung-ho about the idea of putting chemicals in your face, right? I was like, oh, is that natural? I don't really know if that's a good idea. Are we altering the way we look? The second I went to this training, my life got turned upside down. So my now mother-in-law, but back then boyfriend's mother was actually my model. And I saw from before the training to when I took her as my model and saw her the next day, the next week, when all of her treatment settled in, I saw the change in her confidence like night and day. And I thought to myself, wow, I have the power with a needle to give somebody their oomph back, right? To give them, like Stella got her groove back. And I did that. And it was just so exciting to see that transformation and know that I was a part of it, that I never went back. I'm like, no, I got to do this all the time. I got to do what it takes to know this inside and out, because I can't believe what I can help somebody feel.
What year was that around when you went to that conference?
Oh, well, so that was a training program. It was like just a nighttime program. That was in 2013. So I've been in the industry now about 9 years. And, it's every year. I never am done learning. I always go to conferences. I always go to trainings. You never know enough. And when you think you know enough, you're stopping your potential, because there's always something you can learn. And as you pointed out, it's only been 20 years, but look at how the industry has evolved. So I always recommend to people who get into this industry, don't stop when you've taken the programs, when you've become what we call an advanced, aesthetic provider. There's always new techniques. There's always new products. There's always it's a technology, driven industry as well, with lasers and devices. There's never a time where you're going to be, at the complete top, right? So never stop learning.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. What are some trends that you've seen in the industry thus far that are new, that you're like, okay, these are good, I'm interested in this?
So I actually am about to demo some devices. then in the laser aspect of the tech, like the technology aspect, device wise has grown significantly. And probably one of the hottest trends right now is radio frequency microneedling, which involves this mechanical trauma mixed with a radio frequency energy trauma, to make the skin tighter, to really like avoid going under the surgical knife in some ways, right? It'll never be as complete as a surgical intervention for, like, say, like a facelift, right? Facelift is, it's timeless. You can never compete with a facelift, but there's so many non-invasive techniques now and devices that we can get a person like 50% there without having to undergo the knife. So, you know, big things right now besides the radio frequency are threads. Thread lifts are becoming really popular. And I mean, even advanced techniques using the products we already have, like fillers and Botox. There's so many, you know, off-label uses of them now, like micro Botox in certain areas just to like almost smooth the skin, and using injectable fillers in different ways at different depths of the face than we ever thought of. When I first joined this industry, it was, you know, oh, you're injecting the cheeks, you do 3 points, 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at the change. And now it's like, nope, make sure you're, you know, under the muscle, over the bone, you know, at this level, mix it with this, you know, product to get this kind of lift. Make sure you're changing the direction of the ligament so you get more of you know, an upward lift. It's just, it's crazy how much has changed in this industry, even at an intellectual, like a knowledge level.
Wow, and that's why it's so important to go to these conferences, like you said, because you're getting this knowledge that you're bringing back to your patient. So pulling them better. That's great.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, to my understanding, you're a trainer, a national trainer, that you travel all over the U.S., right?
So yeah, I mean, right now I've kind of been focused more in the tri-state area. I'm carless, but the lucky part about Allergan, being an Allergan trainer, is they will kind of cover you to get wherever you have to go to help train their clients. So it's really a win-win situation. I think it's such an amazing, amazing program, because it's, if you think about it as the client perspective, so say I'm a brand new injector and I want to learn how to use these products like Juvederm, Botox, 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐿, right? These courses are very expensive. You know, these weekend courses, these week-long courses, and that's just for one course. Think of how many courses you have to take until you get really comfortable. So what Allergan does, and you know, not just Allergan, the other companies as well, like Merz and Galderma, if you're an account with them, in other words, if you're purchasing products from them to use on your clients, they want to make sure you're using their products correctly and that you're practicing safe practices. So they will give you the opportunity to train with one of their trainers. So if you're an account with them, the training's included, which is a crazy, you know, crazy, lucky and fortunate offer in modern aesthetics, right? So as a trainer, I love it because I get to give, now I have a secondary job that allows me to give back in something I love to do, which is teaching in a topic that I love, which is aesthetics, allowing somebody to advance their knowledge in the field and use products correctly. So it's like a win-win on everybody's behalf. You know, Allergan gets people utilizing their products in a better way. The injectors get better knowledge of how to use the products. The trainers get to give back their knowledge and still get compensated for it. So it's incredible. I think it's a great program.
Is it a hard process for an injector to open an account with this pharmaceutical company like that?
So you do have to be a medical provider, and you have to be, you know, it's going to vary state to state, but for the most part, like say in New York, for Allergan, I have to be, you know, co-signed onto an account with my medical supervising physician, my medical director, right? So, you know, if you have a medical director, if you are a physician yourself. You just, they're pretty open now to most fields. You don't just have to be in the dermatology plastic surgery industry to be able to get an account with them. You just have to go through proper training and certification to be able to utilize the products.
Nice, nice.
And of course you have to be licensed, right? Because, we have to make sure we're practicing safe medicine.
For sure, for sure. Now I get a lot of experienced injectors to actually reach out to me and say, hey, I really want to become a trainer. Is there any advice you can give to injectors if they would like to move their career towards that?
So it's actually, these training positions are very coveted. They're like 1 in a million, and they're hard. Once somebody has a position, they don't want to leave. This is a great gig, right? I have become so fortunate that I got a spot. Of course, you always want to stay very close with your rep in the, whatever cosmetic pharmaceutical company that you're working with. You want to stay close in touch. You want to, say to them, hey, if you know of any openings on the advisory boards or for trainer positions, can you please let me know? I'd like to apply. So back a year ago, Allergan decided they wanted to create a full-time position for a trainer that would just be a trainer and not, have any other responsibilities in the, at the injector level. So I applied for that full-time position, and I was being reviewed or considered as a top candidate, but I didn't want to give up my days injecting. I wanted to be able to do both. And so I wanted to be, not a full-time trainer, but on the advisory board to be able to provide trainings for, whenever I was on my opposite days of injecting. And I said, please, I really appreciate the opportunity to be, looked into or nominated for this position, but I really would rather a part-time. Can you please keep me in mind? They did keep me in mind. They reached back out to me when they were restructuring, getting some new faces for their advisory board, at the end of last year, like over the summer. And so I am super lucky. Some of my fellow colleagues that are, at the same kind of level of experience that I am, younger in the industry, have also been awarded the opportunity. So I think it's great. We have some, OGs that are still teaching, and we have some new faces that are teaching. And I think we both learn from each other. We learn, some of the basics and some of the more advanced techniques. So it's networking is number one. Like I said before, you never know what opportunities can fall onto your plate when you stay in touch with the right people and network with the right people. But never stop trying. Just because there might not be an opening this year doesn't mean there isn't an opening next year or the year after. So, just stay present.
Is there any benefit that you can touch on that it added to your career? Because I know a lot of people, once they get to this point, they want to do something like this. It's like their thing, like they want to get into this level. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes, it added so many benefits. I mean, numerous benefits. Number one, even earlier this year, I should say later last year, so September, October, we went to a conference. It's called Train the Trainers Conference, right? So we still have to learn, and we have to learn how to teach as well. So we went to Arizona, and we were being taught by some of the top gurus of the industry, things like injection technique, anatomy. They flew in, I think, like 20-something cadaver heads. Then we were in this frozen, refrigerated, I should say, truck, dissecting cadavers. It was the coolest thing. I mean, I injected like fake filler into a cadaver's cheek, and then I was able to dissect and see what layer my product went. How cool is that? So when you're looking at a patient, you don't get to see the inside. You just see what the result is on the outside. So it's so important to know what you're doing underneath, but you can't see what you're doing on a live patient. So that even just learning on cadavers is such an incredible opportunity. But yeah, I mean, being a trainer, but a lot of these perks, like learning perks, you can also get at conferences as an injector. Or training programs. There are private trainings. There are, numerous different weekend courses. There's week courses. There's I mean, you could fly just about anywhere in the world and sign up for a course and learn from, gurus across the sea. So there's a lot of opportunities if you look for them. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to, answer them, and they can come to me and ask me what are some good courses, what are some courses that I felt like didn't really give me much feedback. And I'm happy to share my experience.
Can you share any conferences or trainings that you would recommend for the audience?
Yeah, so there are some basic ones out there, like Empire. Empire is known as a basic training course. There's also different levels. Palette resources, that's one that I took when I was trying to go from intermediate to like more advanced techniques. Like, a lot of people when they first start, they don't learn cannula. And cannula, which is basically a needle without a point, it's like a tube, allows you to have so much more wiggle room of areas you can go in the face, depths of the tissues you can go. And I wanted it to be added to my toolkit. And, it's hard to find people that teach cannula. So, we'll just teach it without signing up for a specific program. So, I used Palette resources to help learn advanced techniques. I mean, even just joining there's something called Patreon, which is, I don't know if you've heard of Patreon, John. A lot of these injectors, they have almost like these blogs on Patreon where you can watch videos. You sign up to follow them like a subscription. And each week they'll post like another video or another technique, and people will, in the comments will talk about it, add feedback. There's a lot of, like for example, I love her. She's a nurse practitioner. Her name is Jubilant Julie. I'm probably going to end up going to one of her. She calls it Head in Breakfast because they bring in cadavers. It's a weekend course. You study on the cadavers, and it's like a getaway where you get to know your colleagues. So, there are some amazing people out there that will actually do private courses that you can sign up for too.
Wow, that's interesting. So there's tons of options.
Oh yeah.
When I speak to a lot of like new grads and things like that are coming out of college, they're always, one of their main questions is like, I'm just coming out of college. I don't have that much money. Like, what do I do? How do I use my time effectively to get really in this industry? And a lot of them are give up hope or they get frustrated, and I give them some tips, but I would love to hear what you would say to that.
So, that was kind of my case, right? Like I actually, it wasn't, and it was my case. I didn't know I wanted to go into the industry. Kind of fell into my plate. I knew I wanted to go into dermatology. I didn't know really much about aesthetics. It wasn't as big. This was before social media blew up, right? So I didn't even know, like from Instagram and TikTok or whatever, all these different things that could be done to the face. I just happened to be in medical dermatology already, and aesthetics fell on my plate. But had I known, a little kind of loophole, right, or sneak around is, if you really know you want to be in this industry, don't stop, but keep applying for jobs or with, say, for example, plastic surgeons, dermatologists, med spas, aesthetic-driven practices. And that's a way to maybe meet whether it's a nurse practitioner, PA, an MD, a DO that wants to have someone come in and do aesthetics for them. So they're going to train you themselves, right? Or they don't have the time to train you, but they're going to set you up on their accounts like Allergan and get you trainings that get like people like me, trainers, to come in and teach you. So that's a way of spending no money. You're learning on the job. And then as you get older and you get, more earnings, you can dedicate a certain portion towards your education. And some jobs even give you some portion towards CMEs or continuing medical education. So I think if you don't really have the finances, the first place to start is getting a job with someone who will actually teach you or get you trainings.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And that's exactly what I say too.
Mm-hmm.
I think learning, because there's this thing called beginner spas, like the Ideal Image, Laser Away, and there's some like branded ones in the New York City area that I think providers should go to. Also, that exactly to your point. So no, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so one of the places that I learned the most at is I worked for a Medi Spa run by an oculoplastic surgeon. She had two locations at the time in Brooklyn and in Gramercy Park in the city. And it was just all day, every day, injectables. We didn't do anything, it wasn't a dermatology practice. It wasn't a plastic surgery office. It was a Medi Spa that just did injectables and other like non-invasive things like lasers. And so the exposure, right, getting thrown in and having the number over and over. First you start, you practice on like friends or family. But then once you get the momentum, if you have quantity, like a lot of patients, you're forced to like learn and grow quickly, right? So a lot of these, places that are willing to invest in brand new injectors like Medi Spas are great places to start for the exposure and experience.
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more at all. Amazing. Do you by chance have, I always mention that they should have a book of work, like you said, take pictures of their family, friends and family. Would you suggest that as a good opening to show to potential employers?
Yeah, so actually, my Instagram has become more like my portfolio, right? Like, what is she capable of? And when I have patients that are like, oh, I think I want to do a chemical peel, but I don't know what I'm going to look like after or during. And then I'm like, oh, well, go here and you'll see this is me going through my chemical peel, and this is my before and after, and this is my in between. It's been a great way to get new clients, right? Social media. But it's also a great way to display your work like a portfolio. So I think, having those before and after photos, learning the number one thing that I realize in this industry is a lot of people don't explain stuff. Right? A lot of injectors will walk in the room, the plan has already been determined by their like cosmetic consultant or whoever, help the patient make the decision on what to do. And they go in and they inject and they say, okay, let me know if there's any issues and have a nice day. Patients want to feel educated. They want to feel like they're learning something, and they want to feel like they're in good hands. So taking that extra time to stop, show people photos, go over what could happen, what we're trying to accomplish, will make you stand apart from the mainstream of the industry.
Yeah, it's like almost like, I think you're really good with like white glove service. Like
Thank you. Thank you.
everything you're saying is that exact touch is what gets you from just being like an average to like extraordinary over the top. Like it's just those little things that you're mentioning. Amazing. That's
When
really
I'm sorry to cut you off. When I'm teaching, I actually, teach as well. During the teaching portion of my training sessions, I actually go over some other things of what to do. So check in with the patient, ask them, does this hurt? Are you feeling okay? They want to feel like you're not just using them as a dartboard, right? Like you're not just stabbing them in the face. You're actually trying to give them patient care. So check in with the patient, judge by the person's body reaction, if they're okay, if they're comfortable, if they're in pain, go make sure you answer all the questions before you leave the room. Like just that extra mile, that extra level of comfort, they'll remember it. It's an experience too, right? It's not just an outcome, it's the experience. So I think you provide them that extra VIP service or the VIP aura, and they'll remember you. They'll remember you over the whatever plastic surgeon's office they went to 3 months before. So, my personal opinion is it doesn't matter the degree behind your name, whether you're PA, NP, MD, DO, nurse, right? I think if you're dedicated to this field, you learn your craft inside and out, you learn your anatomy inside and out, so you practice safely, and you take the patient's point of view and care into the utmost perspective, you'll always win. You'll always have loyal clients. You will be successful. It's not necessarily what you learned in medical school, but what you're doing to make sure that you're learning this craft and this field and taking the next step in being, a safe and a kind-hearted injector, right?
Yes.
So I really, truly, I'm one of those people that believe, I look at everybody when I'm training, I don't even necessarily ask them what their degree is, as long as I know that they're licensed and, they have an account with Allergan. I don't ask them, are you a PA? Are you an NP? Are you a nurse? Doesn't matter. Did you take the time to learn the anatomy? Do you want to get good at this? Do you care about your patient? That's what's important.
Yes, yes, that is amazing. That is definitely, I agree. Now, New York City is one of the most competitive cities for the dermatology field. I recruit myself for New York for PAs and NPs in the city, and it's a good thing for them. They have options. But are there certain things that you would mention when picking a practice that they should focus on?
Well, yeah. So there's a few things. I mean, it depends what level you're at, right? In the beginning, beggars can't be choosers. You're trying to get the experience. You take what you can get because it's really hard to break into this field. Everyone wants, oh, well, do you have 2 or more years experience, right? Well, how do you get the experience if you're not being allowed into the office without experience? It's like such a catch-22. So I tell beginners or, PA students or nursing students, you apply to everything, put your resume everywhere, walk into offices, introduce yourself, because you never know what opportunity you're going to get. And it might not be your ideal first, your first job might not be your ideal job, but as long as you're gaining experience, you'll learn what you like and what you don't like, where you want your career to go and where you don't want your career to go. But I remember when I was interviewing to get into dermatology, because dermatology is a very hard field to get into. Yeah. There was one doctor that I interviewed with over the phone, and he asked me what I was looking for. And I said, I'm looking for, whether a part-time or full-time position, anywhere in New York City or the outskirts like Queens, Brooklyn. I'm very open-minded, but I don't have real experience. I have experience as a medical assistant, but not as a PA. This is my first job. He said, looking back, I'll never forget this because I was kind of crushed, but at the same time, kind of driven. He said, if you find, what you're looking for is a needle in a haystack. So if you find a job like that, even overseas, I would take it. And I was like, okay, so first off, PA positions don't exist in a lot of countries, right? So he was just trying to say, all right, well, good luck to you in a sarcastic manner. And I was like, oh man, I'm never going to find a job. This is a very well-known dermatologist, and he's making a mockery of my even asking for a position. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let that defeat me. I really want this. So I'm going to keep trying, and I'm not going to stop until I get a yes. And so, I just kept applying. I found an amazing dermatologist, actually 2, that were willing to take me on part-time and show me the ropes and actually teach me and train me. And I worked for them for a long time. And, you take what you can get and you be appreciative for any opportunity to learn. But if somebody says no, and that's what you want to do, you say, okay, bye, and you keep trying.
Yeah, all those points you just made are extremely important. Going to these dermatology practices, especially being a new grad, hustling and meeting everyone you can to really get your foot in the door. I always tell providers a year or 2 experience, and you can really maybe go to somewhere that you like a little bit better. But getting that first stint is important, very important.
And then later in your career, when you have more of the skill, you have more of the knowledge, and you're looking for the right fit, you have to decide, what do you want out of your career? Do you want, an office that arranges everything for you, that you walk into, your schedule's all set, you go in, you do your job, you leave at the end of the day, the administrative work is not your responsibility, you're just an injector or, an aesthetics provider? Or do you want your career to be driven in a way where you are also part of the establishment of a brand, part of the admin, part of the designing of the schedule and the promotions and the collaborations? What do you want out of your career? Do you want to just be an injector, or do you want to be, an industry leader? So, that will determine what kind of setting you work in. Do you work for a med spa where everything is done for you? You walk in, you walk out? Or do you find someone to collaborate with, like a supervising physician that will let you, determine your hours and what you want out of the business and the brand?
How did you know it was time to kind of start your own business?
So a lot of clients, family members, friends were telling me long before I went off on my own, like, Sari, you need to go do this on your own. And, it's easier said than done. There's so much that goes on the back end. There's so much involved in creating a business, like even just setting up a Gmail account for the entire team. Like, there's so many little details like that might seem like nothing, but when you put them all together, it's overwhelming. And I was just so afraid to go through all of those details and then fail. And it's also a financial sphere too. What if I fail and then I'm out of a job, and what if I can't get another job? But the pandemic actually pushed me to, I kind of woke up in my mind one day in about May of 2020, and I said, oh my God, look at what's happening in the world around me. Look at how many people are out of their jobs. At first I said to myself, you'd be crazy to leave your job. Look at how many people are out of their job. And then I said to myself, you know what? I don't have kids yet. I don't have any major, like a mortgage on a home. If you're going to try something, try it now, because if it doesn't work out, you can always go back to the drawing board. You're still young. You still don't have a lot of responsibilities. And this is something you've always wanted to do. And the climate is changing. The office can't provide you, like, for example, part of the excitement of being in an office setting is seeing your colleagues, right? Now, all of a sudden, they're limiting how many people can go in the office because of COVID, right? So there's less staff there. There's less patients there at once. That family feel kind of dissipated. And I'm like, all right, well, now I'm going into the office. I'm scared. I'm garbed up. And now I don't even have my family there, my work family. So a lot of things changed, and it's not anybody's fault. It was what we had to do business wise to stay safe. But it pushed me to jump and take a leap of faith and try something new. So.
Wow, that's great. Because so many people, I feel like they're on that that edge of breaking into so much more, but they're just like, I don't know. And I speak to so many candidates that I know they're like super good, but they don't believe it themselves, or they don't believe. So you taking that next level is very inspiring.
And I'm very much so, I'm sure you've heard this many times with the right people, but I'm very much so a firm believer in community over competition. So even when my colleagues are like, Sari, how'd you do it? Where'd you begin? You can ask me any questions. I have nothing to hide. I'm happy to share. I don't care if there's 50 million of companies that look just like mine. There's always enough patients to go around. So as long as you remain true to yourself and true to your patients, your reputation will carry you. And it doesn't matter if there's 3 people on the same street doing the same thing, right? So I'm always happy to connect, to answer questions. So please reach out.
And that's very true. I mean, even from like a statistics standpoint, there's way too many patients for providers now. So, I mean, there's no competition.
No, I was just going to say, the crazy part is, so you would think, 2020, everything went on lockdown. A lot of people lost their jobs. You would think, oh my God, this industry must have plummeted. The opposite. We skyrocketed, and part of it had to do with how terrible we all look on Zoom. But the other part of it had to do with people looking for a feel good. They wanted to pick me up. They wanted to try something they never tried before to feel better. Because it's when you can't control your environment, you're at least trying to control yourself and your health and your wellness and your aesthetic, right? So for example, the sales of Botox went up like 11% during a worldwide pandemic. It's crazy to think that nationally went up 11%. But it just goes to show this industry is only getting stronger. So there's so many opportunities, so many people that who never even thought about Botox who are entering that world. I have so many males now. I never really treated males before. Now I'm doing Botox every day. But, you know, I think that people that normally wouldn't have tried it are venturing to do something new, to get a perk or a feel out of something, to like lift up their spirits.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that and definitely agree with that. So, how important is social media to an injector's career? And it's a double question, actually. What is the balance that you might do, or tell us a little bit about balance when it comes to social media?
So, you know, there was a period of time where I was trying to keep up with social media, post like 3 times a week, and always, you know, this was even before they had stories. And I realized that it was kind of taking away from my own like personal life and my own personal health, right? So I realized that there is an important balance. I think being on social media is important for a presence, for a portfolio, to show that you're staying up with the times, the newest techniques, the newest procedures, that you care about, you know, what's going on in your patients' lives. I think it's good for connecting and staying relevant. I think, you know, when I post on my story, my patients are like, oh yeah, Sari, I almost forgot, I need to make an appointment. Sometimes it reminds them. But I do think it's important to also keep a balance, because you know, we all know that social media can become a giant black hole, right? And once you start scrolling, you don't stop scrolling. My husband and I, we call it zombieing, because we turn into zombies. But, you know, so not letting it get the best of you in your personal life, but balancing it with your career to be useful in, you know, remaining present. So it's a very hard balance, and I'm not great at it, and I'm not claiming to be great at it. I don't have a ton of followers, but, you know, I also think, you know, social media isn't everything. Actually, my number one sensor of or source of clients is referrals. If one of my clients was happy, they'll refer their next, you know, their friend, their family, their sister, their aunt, whoever. So I would say my number one source of clients is referrals. My secondary source would be, you know, social media.
Nice. And that speaks a lot, because yeah, social media is good to get clients from, and it's a good marketing tool. But if you're getting most of your clients from referrals, that means your service is like top notch.
Thank you. I hope so.
Yes, for sure, for sure, for sure. Can you tell us some people on social media that you follow that would be good for new injectors or even experienced injectors to follow to learn from?
Absolutely. So these, I mean, it would take forever to list all the incredible, amazing ones, but these are some of the ones that come to mind that I follow, that I find very helpful and educational. Professor Sebastian Cotofana, he's really good at explaining the anatomy. I think that, you know, he's an anatomist, right? So he's going to go over detailed levels of the face and the depths of the tissues. So that's great. PA Nicola, she's incredible teacher. She's an educator, and she likes to explain what she's doing, why she's doing it. She's a great person to watch. Like I mentioned before, Jubilant Julie. Julie has found this really cool niche of being the go-to person. And I don't know if this is her desire or not, but people just love how open she is about things that could go wrong in the injectable industry. And she shares adverse events and how she helped other, you know, injectors get out of their adverse event, and treat the patient so that nothing, you know, no long-term damage was done. And she shares them. So if you're looking for examples of, you know, what an occlusion looks like, or you know, how to treat reaction of some sort, her page is really good up for that. She also loves to teach little pearls or perks of doing different techniques for different muscles with Botox, for example. So she's great. And then the big guru that everybody knows in this industry, from Canada, his name is Dr. Arthur Swift. He is legendary, known across the world. He does a lot of private courses, big week-long courses or weekend courses. And he has an answer or a logic to everything. Oh, you move the needle at this angle, and then you inject right above where you just injected to provide like more of a pillar of support under the ligament. There's always like next level explanation when it comes to his trainings. So I think those are some great people to follow, or to even take their own. They have private training courses. I myself do training courses. You can always reach out to me. My handle is Skin by Sari. And I don't know, I just think that there's so many opportunities to learn. Social media has not just become a platform for patients, but a platform for educators. And for, injectors that want to learn more. So, I think there's so much good about how connected we are in this world right now. And I think everyone should be taking advantage of that for sure.
I agree. That community of just support is probably huge, especially if there, like you said, there's something that happens that you want to know more about or you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. It's really, really good. Is there a celebrity that you get in your office, like, hey, I want to look like this person the most, or?
So that's a funny question. Thank God, not so much anymore, right? I was really concerned at one point that everyone wanted to look like a Kardashian, right? In the beginning of my career, so I do a lot of lip enhancements. My kind of forte is a more natural looking lip. I like to keep lips looking natural. And I do have an occasional patient, or I used to all the time, that would walk in and be like, can I give you my inspiration picture on what I want my lips to look like? And in my head, I didn't say this out loud, but in my head, I was like, if they show me Kim Kardashian or Kylie Jenner, I am just going to walk out. But just because I saw it so much over and over and over and over again. And it was always them. But, I think that's changed a lot. I think there's been a trend more back to a more individualized approach, right? Like, we're not cookie cutters. We shouldn't all look like robotic versions of each other. And I think keeping the person's natural aesthetics and just enhancing what they already have is the way to go. And I think luckily we're trending in the right direction on, there's been a big wave of, all right, let's dilute it out and start over, because, we didn't know what we were doing at first. As far as an overall industry, I think we were going, at one point we got needle happy, right? So, I think as we learn more on the anatomy, the depth of the needle, the injection technique, the layers of the tissues, we're learning more on what leads to a good outcome and what leads to a bad outcome. And at least I can speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody, but I don't like the injected look. I like a more natural look. I don't like duck lips. I don't like cat eyes, or, any of those. I don't know, we're turning into animals or something. But, I think maintaining the person's natural features and just enhancing them to a limit that is realistic.
Yeah, that's what I hear from most injectors, like, just really enhancing it, or prevention for a lot of the anti-aging things or things like that. I know New York is not big with like anti-aging as of yet. Have you seen any trends up there as far as that is concerned?
Anti-aging, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Like HRT or like integrative medicine?
Oh, like hormone replacement therapy? Not as big yet as, say, some other states, but no, we are starting to see it. I actually know of a place that does a lot of HRT and integrative medicine. I do have a few colleagues that work in that field as well. I think it's really important to connect what you're doing on the outside with what you're doing on the inside. And even though I don't do hormone replacement or anything like that, I do advise my patients to drink more water, to make sure they're balancing their food groups, because, sometimes the skin is a direct reflection of what's going on internally. Sometimes we can't control it, like stress, right? Stress can lead to breakouts. But sometimes we can control it. Like, for example, in dermatology, we recommend our acne patients to cut back on dairy because dairy does have an inflammatory component that can lead to worsening acne. So there are certain connections with internal and external that I do believe in. And I think it's great to look at the person as a whole and not just an external skin, you know.
Great, 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 great. And one of my last questions is, now I know, continuously educating your mind is important. Is there any podcasts or articles or even magazines that is great for like dermatology or aesthetic industry to read or to follow up or keep on track?
Oh my God, there's so many sources. So like I said before, Patreon, there are a lot of injectors that have Patreon accounts that are, I mean, it's like a blog. It's, you know, you can go on and you can watch their courses on, like, say, for example, how do I get a lip flip with Botox? And here's how. Let me show you on my patient and let me explain what I'm doing. So there's definitely like private kind of online courses. There's a lot of online virtual conferences. There's a lot of in-person conferences, like you said, AmSpa. I used to read a lot the Journal of American Dermatology, because they have, I mean, they're also covering medical dermatology, but they do have a lot of articles that are on cosmetic dermatology as well. I mean, there's so many resources. I have a few books that I've read, written by, you know, for example, Dr. Chris Zurich. He's an amazing injector, and he has a book you can take out and read on injection techniques, injection filler techniques. So yeah, there's like a lot of resources out there, both hard copy and virtual. So, you know, there's, you feel free to contact me, ask me, but yeah, I mean, even if you just Google it, you'll see like tons.
Yeah, we're going to drop all the links of everybody you mentioned today, even yourself. So if you would like to reach out to her and get some more information and just have some questions that you're looking to enter the industry, feel free. Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, no, for sure. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me and speaking a little bit more about the aesthetic industry and dermatology industry also. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you and what you have planned next.
Of course. So you can reach me, just a reminder, my name is Sari Katz, SariKatz. You can find me on Instagram at Skin by Sari, so SkinBySari, or my joint account, which is Velour Medical. That's my concierge company. Velour is VELOUR, Medical, MEDICAL. So that's where you can find me. And also, you know, you can always feel free to email me as well, which is sari@velourmd.com. And what's next? I mean, what isn't next, right? So my co-founder in this concierge aesthetics practice that we have, we're thinking of other ways and other avenues to expand. So we're looking at, I mean, we've already brought on wellness and IV services, so we can do, you know, hangover cures and things like that. And we are opening up a concierge care division for more medical, less cosmetic, more medical services. So we want to have different aspects of medicine feeding each other, like that integrated approach you were talking about. So we want to be able to provide not just aesthetic services, but medical as well for our patients. You know, hopefully the goal is to expand into different states, to bring on more injectors, and not stop growing, never stop. So, you know, it started in the city of dreams, but, you know, who knows where we'll go.
Amazing. That sounds great. I can't wait to see it. I'm watching every step of the way.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And until next time, goodbye.
Until next time, bye.